The song says no promises. That is a promise. Christmas is around the corner. I hope you're going to get all your shopping done this weekend.
And if there's one thing I know, that it's Ainsley Earhardt's favorite day because it's Friday.
It is Friday. I do love Friday because we get to sleep in tomorrow.
And it's free shipping day, I hear today.
Yes,
so if you're going shopping on the internet, you're likely getting some free shipping wherever you go.
It's not too late.
If you're like me, you're still shopping.
No, a lot of these websites will say we can get it to you before Christmas.
If you do it today?
If you do it today or if you do it in the next few days. Yeah.
Okay, listen, you can do that as soon as we're done with this 3 hours, okay? Because we have got
you
lots.
can multitask.
We got lots to talk about. And we got Pete in today. Brian is out, I believe, in California.
Signing some books.
Doing his book. All right. Meanwhile, let's talk about this. Fox News has received some documents that show that months before they even talked to Hillary Clinton, they were doing their best to essentially, it looks to an outside observer that they were editing the evidence to essentially exonerate Hillary Clinton. You've heard in the past about how initially the first round it was extremely grossly negligent, which is a criminal standard, which could result in criminal charges. That was softened. Also, whether she was hacked. It looks a little suspicious.
A lot of this has started to add up to feel suspicious. We've heard previously that James Comey wrote that famous exoneration memo of Hillary Clinton months before she was even interviewed.
2 months.
Before many people were interviewed. But what we're learning now this morning from Senator Ron Johnson, because they've pushed to get these documents, is what the original version, Comey draft letter, looked like versus what Comey actually said. Right. So that's it's a new development that we have this morning, presenting more evidence.
Well, you know, and if you were making that statement that was going to change the election and change the course of someone's life, you're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and you're going to make sure you do it properly, and that's what I assume he did. The question is, though, was he doing this to water it down because he was a fan of hers? Based on other things that we've seen in the FBI, it just seems so shady. Many people have questions, including Senator Ron Johnson. He sent a letter to the current FBI director, to Chris Wray, and he said it looks like these edits appear to change the tone. For instance, the gross negligence was changed to extremely careless. Then another.
No, we had the graphic right here. What Comey's statement originally said about gross negligence, quote, "There is evidence to support a conclusion that Secretary Clinton and others used the private email server in a manner that was grossly negligent." That's the criminal standard right there. Criminal negligent with the respect to the handling of classified information. But instead, what he said was, given that combination of factors, we assess reasonably likely, possible, that hostile actors gained access to Hillary Clinton's private personal email account. So, in other words, they were trying to say she was probably hacked, and that was reasonably likely that hostile actors, they wanted to do that, but instead they changed it to it's possible.
It's possible. I mean, if you look at, it's actually a 6 or 7 page document. It's been posted on multiple sites. You can actually look at the comparison of what was edited from what was actually said. We're talking about reducing Hillary Clinton's culpability in the scandal, removing references to the intelligence community, because when you start talking about the intelligence community, that raises suspicions about what really was the intelligence level, classified, very classified. They downgraded, as you said, the likelihood that spies had penetrated Clinton's secret server. They even took out a whole paragraph that talked about how unsecure it was. And then they also de-emphasized the sheer volume of the emails. So when you look at all those edits put together, it makes it, and you know who was behind that edit and a lot of those edits? Peter Strzok. So when you look at how politically minded they were, how much they hated Trump and loved Hillary Clinton, and then you look at all those changes, it doesn't feel like an intelligence or forensic investigation. It feels like political.
But just remember, it was done 2 months before they interviewed Hillary Clinton and 2 months before they interviewed all the other people. Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, says there's some problems here that somebody's got to get to and fix immediately.
This runs 53.
You have here a cesspool of corruption covering up for the Clintons in a way which I would have to say as a historian is unimaginable. I do not know of any point in American history where you have this level of a system of corruption. At every level, this is undermining our system of justice. It is violating the law. It's very likely all of these people will end up going to jail. It's time for the Attorney General to step up to the plate and do his job. He has no excuse. As somebody who I know believes in the law, He has no excuse for hiding. He has to set up a Clinton investigation. He has to set up an FBI Justice Department investigation. This is his obligation under the law to enforce it and to protect the American people.
Well, Victoria Tenzing, who used to work in the Reagan Department of Justice, is going to be with us in about 5 minutes to talk about how there is something going on at the FBI and at the Department of Justice.
Some people are calling for a special counsel. Newt Gingrich is being even more assertive, saying it should be our own Attorney General. This Justice Department does not need to recuse itself from looking at what the Clintons did, because that's not their dirt. That's dirt of a previous administration that could have been politicized. It's time to stand up and really find out what happened. I think more and more of the American people feel that way as well.
All right.
Well, yesterday there was talk that Marco Rubio might not support the tax bill that they're hoping, the Senate and the House are hoping they get on the president's desk before Christmas. But the president is saying that's not true. He definitely thinks that Rubio is going to be on his team. And the reason Rubio said he was possibly thinking about voting against it is because it didn't include the child tax credit, which helps low-income parents.
It does, but it's just not enough.
Wasn't enough for
right now. The suggestion is
it doesn't include enough. You're right.
Right now, it's at $1,100 in the Republican plan. Keep in mind, it was about 2 weeks ago. It sounded like it was going to be $2,000 per year per family. He wants more. Look, at the 11th hour, this is just how they negotiate. He's saying, okay, $1,100 is not enough. And the people behind the scenes are saying, okay, Mr. Florida Senator, what's your number?
Well, and we hear reporting now from our own Chad Pergram that the bill has moved in Rubio's direction inside conference, and that it is, I believe, locked, if not locked, close to locked, which means the House and the Senate have come to a complete deal for the exact same language, because that's what's required for those bills to then go back to the House and Senate and vote on that exact bill. You know what I haven't heard a lot about is whether the individual mandate is included in there or not.
It is.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah.
Good,
so if you don't want to be a part of Obamacare, you don't have to be, and you're not going to be penalized.
Well,
one thing that I did read this morning, the president has, when he was campaigning, he was talking about how he would like to get rid of the Johnson Amendment, and the Johnson Amendment keeps churches and religious folks from essentially talking politics from the pulpit. There had been some suggestion they would get rid of that with this, but at the 11th hour they've decided, you know what, even though he wants it, it's going to cause too much trouble. They're not going to include it.
Excuse me, I have to cough.
God bless you. Don't worry. You, like most of America, are struggling through something right now.
I don't know what it is. I feel great. It's just my voice and my throat.
You know what? That little passage right there, we got to pause because I got to cough. That's going to wind up on the internet. Somebody's going to take a little bit of that and put it on the internet. And the reason we mention that is because, well, as of yesterday, the internet ended.
It's over.
According to many members of the mainstream media. Look at that. CNN ended the internet as we know it. And that's not just it. Because by a party line vote, 3-2, the Republicans in charge of the FCC essentially got rid of the Obama-era net neutrality standards.
Of course, the Obama administration moved in 2015 to basically treat the internet as a utility. And then the government looking at it saying, well, that opens the door up to a great deal of regulation. They've done a nice job calling it net neutrality. There's points on both sides. But predictably, because Donald Trump did it, and his administration did it, it must have been very evil, including on the evening shows last night. Jimmy Kimmel had this to say about net neutrality. Listen.
The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, did something absolutely despicable today. They voted to put an end to net neutrality. Now, this is the rule that says everyone gets equal access to the internet. A big company or somebody selling crocheted owls from their house in the Midwest. Now, as long as they tell us they're doing it now, internet service providers will be allowed to slow down or block web traffic to any website or streaming service they like, which benefits the big telecom companies and does the opposite for all of us. I just want to say thank you, President Trump. Thanks to you and this jackhole you appointed to run the FCC, big corporations are about to...
Well, that guy is going to be on with us to respond to what he thinks about being called that name and to explain all this for you and what it means for your family.
It's a little complicated. All you have to know is that before net neutrality, the internet seemed to be working just fine up until 2015. And all sorts of things happen. This deregulates it and returns essentially big parts of it
power
to the free market system.
That's right. So what it would do, the Democrats are up in arms about this because it prevents someone like a Comcast or someone like a big internet company from charging different prices depending on the market. Like they might charge someone an area that makes a lot of money more than they would.
They would charge Netflix more if you're going to stream more. This ultimately helped Google, and it helped Netflix. And now, essentially, they're saying, all right, the big...
So the Republicans are saying this takes the government out of it. Less government,
That's
better
right.
for the free market.
I also wonder if Jimmy Kimmel got his talking points from Chuck Schumer on this one, like he did on healthcare. Just saying, he's become an organ for the Democrats pretty predictably. If you want a great article on this, go to the Wall Street Journal. They did a nice job laying out why this change is all about freedom, as you talked about. Deregulation, opening up a space. It opens up for innovation and things that the Trump administration have been stifled under so-called net neutrality. So a lot of debate will continue, and we get to ask the man himself, who Jimmy Kimmel called a jackhole. You're always winning an argument when you're just calling people names.
I had to look that up.
Yeah.
Just saying. All right. Meanwhile, it's 6:11 here in New York City.
And it's Friday.
It's Friday.
We made it.
We made it.
Yay. All right. Good morning to you guys, to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up on some of your headlines this morning. Starting with this, it's a sad story. We now know the name of the first firefighter killed while battling the wildfires raging through Southern California. Corey Iverson leaves behind a pregnant wife and a 2-year-old daughter, Evie. The 32-year-old was part of a team on the front lines trying to contain the Thomas fire when something went tragically wrong. No other details have been released. President Trump cutting the red tape literally. The commander-in-chief using props at the White House Thursday to show how much they've exploded since 1960. During his campaign, Trump promised to slash 2 old regulations for every new one. Yesterday, he said he's done even better, eliminating 22 for every new one.
We're here today for one single reason: to cut the red tape of regulation. The never-ending growth of red tape in America has come to a sudden, screeching, and beautiful halt.
President Trump said so far he has canceled or delayed more than 1,500 regulatory actions. Sarah Sanders sticking a fork in Piegate, the White House press secretary making amends, at least for now, with CNN reporter April Ryan, who claimed Sanders didn't make her own Thanksgiving pecan pie. So Sanders baked a new round of pies for the press.
I look at this as a reset. I think this is an earnest attempt for you to reach out to all of us, not just to me.
I can't believe you would question my ability to
Girl, bye. I mean, but it was a joke. But at the beginning, it was a joke. So what? You could be from the South and you can't cook. A lot of people can't cook.
Well, Ryan didn't even end up eating a slice, but hey, at least Sarah Huckabee Sanders went out there and was like, you want some pies? I'll give them to you.
Well, we didn't know until yesterday that it was a joke, because I think one of April's original tweets said this is not a joke.
So is this the end of Piegate, or is it going to continue? Is this the end?
I forgot it was still going on, so I think it's probably the end.
Okay.
Did you lose sleep over it last night?
I did. I was up all night.
No.
All right.
Thanks so much, Jillian. Well, we just talked about it. Former FBI Director James Comey's comments on the Hillary Clinton email scandal, were they watered down? Our next guest has inside information on the scandal, and she says, we ain't seen nothing yet.
Plus, Christmas canceled in Jesus' hometown.
What?
And of course, President Trump is being blamed for it, like everything.
Brand new documents revealing former FBI Director James Comey's exoneration letter in Hillary Clinton's email probe was watered down. Our next guest says it wasn't just a simple edit, but all part of a deep state plot to keep President Trump out of the White House and get Hillary Clinton elected. Here to explain, former chief counsel for the Senate Intel Committee and the attorney for that FBI informant in the Uranium One probe, Victoria Tenzing, live in the studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Who's behind this?
Well, let me just tell you that these events that we have been seeing over the last year, but now recently, are just terrifying because it's really threatening the integrity of our justice system. We now have facts that show us that it's very clear that top officials at the Comey FBI and the Obama Justice Department harbored such animus toward Donald Trump that they hatched a brazen plot to do 2 things. One, to corruptly clear Clinton of crimes.
Before the election.
Before the election, and they did that in July 2016. And then to frame Donald Trump and his campaign staff on this so-called Russian collusion
also
issue.
Before the election, but that has continued to ride up till this day.
Yes, because they also wanted to affect the presidency. See, I mean, we didn't know about Peter Strzok's text, but now we know we're seeing a context for this, the animus. But let's go back over just the Clinton investigation. Who did Comey put in charge of it? Peter Strzok. I mean, he had to know Strzok's animus toward Donald Trump. And then we look at what a farce that investigation was. They didn't even open a grand jury. Now, no serious investigation goes without.
And they watered down the language 2 months before they even interviewed her.
Watered down, gave immunity to 5 of Clinton's aides. And why was that? Because they didn't have a grand jury. Just the flick of the wrist would have gotten that.
And apparently now we also learned that the Department of State agreed to never allow any of her personal emails to ever see the light of day.
To see the light of day. And Comey's writing this memo. He says that he had to do it because of the tarmac meeting.
Right.
Tarmac meeting didn't occur when he was writing this memo.
I know you are the attorney for the Uranium One informant, and someday we'll have a conversation about what he's going to tell folks. But there are a lot of people who work for the FBI who might be watching right now who have a story to tell.
Yes, and I really want them to come forward. We have gotten, please, you have such a wonderful agency. Don't let these people destroy it. Come forward.
So you're looking for whistleblowers?
We are, and go to any lawyer and come forward. You know, you don't have to come to me, but come out, break it out, go through somebody, please, people of the FBI.
All right, Victoria Tenzing joining us on this Friday. Thank you very much. All right, straight ahead, a Fox News alert. Thought this was chilling? Santa next to, that's right, a box of dynamite in Times Square. ISIS just made another direct threat to America for Christmas. Plus, what really happened with Omarosa inside the White House? Well, we just learned about what really went down inside the city.
Some quick headlines this morning, starting with a Fox News alert. ISIS making another Christmas threat. The terrorists now calling to set Washington, D.C.'s National Cathedral on fire. ISIS propaganda like this might have inspired terror suspect Yuqaid Ullah. He is accused of setting off that pipe bomb in New York City's subway system on Monday. And a New York woman is accused of donating to ISIS, sending $60,000 in bitcoins. The feds say that she bought the online currency using stolen credit cards. Officials saying in total she sent $150,000 to ISIS. She was arrested while trying to join the terror army in Syria.
Bitcoin. Stealing credit cards is a crime.
Meanwhile, look at that. With lightsaber in hand, the most anticipated movie of the year blasting into theaters today, Star Wars. Already seen it, and you're... What are you wearing?
Well, good morning to you. Good morning to America. I want to say I'm wearing an R2-D2 suit. I'm a 33-year-old grown man on national television wearing an R2-D2 suit. So I'm very happy about this morning. And listen, I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I grew up on this franchise. I absolutely is directed by Rian Johnson. This is now Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I'm going to break this review.
Yeah, how many stars?
I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It's a solid Star Wars film, but not a great Star Wars film. I would recommend it if you're a fan or a non-fan. It's definitely an entertaining film. It's 2.5 hours. You will enjoy yourself. I just didn't love it as much as The Force Awakens. Right. I will say Empire Strikes Back, New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, and then this movie, The Last Jedi.
His own BuzzFeed list.
I've seen all of them.
Well, this is the last movie that Carrie Fisher did, right?
Yes, so Carrie Fisher did complete all her production on this film, Steve. I don't know what's going to happen with Episode 9. I will say she was supposed to be a part of Episode 9, but she did not obviously shoot those scenes. Episode 8 she did complete before the release date.
Okay, R2
McCarthy. R2 McCarthy.
Thank you very much for joining us live today.
Thank you, Kevin. These directors need to hire him to come and say, watch the movie, tell me what you like, what you don't like, and we're going to change it. Because he's such an expert.
He does a very nice job.
And he married a movie critic, too.
I know. He married the perfect person. All right, well, she was the getaway driver for a cop killer. Now this domestic terrorist could get out of jail early, citing bias.
All right. President Trump on the verge of a major victory with the historic tax cuts. But with... Christmas tree. Christmas card this year. Isn't it beautiful?
It is our shot of the morning. The President and First Lady unveiling their first ever official Christmas portrait.
Don't call it a holiday card, Steve.
No, it's clearly Christmas.
He's bringing Christmas back.
That's right.
He had to us, friends at foxnews.com, and we're going to try to put on as many as we can on this Friday morning.
That's right. Merry Christmas
wild,
to you.
Creative, and
the better, the better chance of getting on, right?
That's right.
All right, let's hand it over to Jill. You know, has some headlines for us. Good morning.
Good morning.
A Fox and Friends Christmas portrait, if you guys are down.
Sure, why not?
We do something fun.
Yeah, we should.
I know. I agree. I think we can do that.
Well, we have
on
ugly
social
Christmas
media.
sweaters coming up, so
yes,
we'll do that.
we do. All right, we will get to that in a little bit. But for now, let's get you caught up on the news that you need to know this morning, starting with this. The former Apprentice contestant, Omarosa Manigault, ousted by John Kelly. Despite her insistence, she resigned. Fox News learning President Trump's chief of staff told Omarosa she was fired in the White House Situation Room, where electronic devices are not allowed. The new revelation comes after she said this.
Where are the pictures or videos? If I had confronted John Kelly, who is a very formidable person, it would garner enough attention for anyone in the room to at least take a picture or a video.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders later defending the White House, saying the president likes Omarosa and thanked her for her service. A domestic terrorist is now suing the New York State Board of Parole, complaining of bias. Judith Clark says she was unfairly denied parole in April and treated as a symbol of crime rather than an individual. Clark was the getaway driver in a deadly 1981 armored truck heist where a security guard and 2 police officers were killed. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo commuted her sentence last December, making her immediately eligible for parole. Christmas now canceled in the town where Jesus Christ grew up, and President Trump is getting the blame. The Muslim mayor of Nazareth, Israel, announcing that a number of Christmas events will not go on. He says President Trump has taken the joy out of the season after recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Fox News contributor Pastor Robert Jeffers reacted.
Operating my maps. I think,
there we go. No,
there we go. Nicely done, Anthony. So my clicker doesn't work for some reason. So engineering, if you're around, my clicker doesn't work. Come see me.
Okay.
Anthony, are you ready? Here we go. So 20 in New York, 21 in Cincinnati, 25 in Chicago. Let's move those maps, Anthony. There we go. Past 24 hours, we've got some lake effect snow right there across the Great Lakes and some rain over the Gulf Coast. Anthony, move it in for me to the northeast, will ya? There we go. Here's the deal. We have a blast of snow coming later on this afternoon. Anthony, advance that map for me, and I'm going to show you that blast of snow coming around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. across the Northeast. There's there it is. In New Jersey, parts of Delmarva, Long Island, up towards New England. So there it is, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Just a little blast of Christmas for you. A blast of Christmas for you.
And yay, Anthony.
Yay.
And yay, Anthony, everybody. Nicely done, my friend.
It is Friday. I love your energy, Janice. I love the way you look. That's awesome. It's Friday. We're so excited. We might get snow here.
So everybody has a big Christmas present for Americans, but if passed, what is it going to mean for your wallet?
Well, a lot of you have been emailing us your questions. We have CPA and founder of Geltrude and Company, Dan Geltrude. He joins us now with some answers. Good morning to you, Dan.
Good morning.
The first one comes from Tom, and he says, how many tax brackets will there be?
Well, right now we have 7. The House wanted to take it down to 4. However, the Senate said, no, we like it at 7.
Thanks,
so
Senate.
So it looks like we're going to stay at 7 at this point.
Does that mean
rates will be lower?
Okay, rates will be lower. Got it.
But still 7 brackets.
Are the income brackets different? So, meaning are they just lowered at every bracket, or could you be moved into a different?
No,
bracket?
they have shifted as well, with the point of trying to bring everybody down just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
What's the final verdict with the state and local tax deductions? Larry emailed us.
Well, all of us have had our fingers crossed on this one, right?
If you're from New York, states.
Absolutely. So what it looks like the final plan is going to be $10,000 of SALT deduction. However, it's not going to be limited just to real estate taxes. That's what the talk was. Now they're going to allow that deduction, $10,000. It could include real estate taxes, income taxes, sales taxes. So a little bit of flexibility there.
And you had a suggestion. We were talking earlier before we started the program, and you suggested if you could prepay next year's property taxes due, because then you can deduct them this year at the full amount.
That is a possibility. So what we were talking about is individuals are cash basis taxpayers, which means if you pay for something in a certain year, you would get the deduction in that year. So with real estate taxes being limited or knocked out, depending, you could potentially prepay 2018. However, that's a gray area because the IRS could turn around down the road and say, that's tax avoidance.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
of course.
Because the motivation there is not to pay the tax.
No, the motivation is to help the federal government.
Yes, get that money in there.
It's all how you spin it. Arlene has this question as well, asking, what does the tax bill do for seniors? All she hears about is middle class.
So seniors per se are not carved out anywhere right here. What it really comes down to is income levels. So if you're a high income earner and you're a senior, your age is not relevant here. So it really is based upon your income levels, not your age.
But if you are on a lot of medications, and a lot of seniors aren't there some tax breaks for that?
Well, there was talk that the medical deduction was going away, which would have really hurt a lot of people, particularly seniors. However, that deduction is back as far as we know right now. So that's a good thing.
And you know, I was watching one of the other channels yesterday, and they said the wrap on the tax plan for the Republicans is that it's just a great big giveaway for the wealthy. Is that true?
No, it's really not true. And it's particularly not true if you are a high income earner in a high tax state. It's definitely not true. I know the president was talking about this is going to be a big, fat Christmas present. A lot of people are getting coal, particularly high-income earners.
Dan, do you mind sticking around? Because a lot of our viewers have questions. This is so confusing for a lot of people, and they don't really know what's happening.
Keep sending us your questions. Friends@foxnews.com. How will it affect you? I've got a few I'm going to email into the account.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Well, the New York Times comparing presidential lies, claiming President Obama only lied 18 times in 8 years, but President Trump has already lied 103 times. Do those numbers really add up? Guy Benson, political editor of townhall.com. He's going to react to that next.
And as Chicago suffers with... It is 6:45 right now, live from New York City. We got some quick headlines. The city of Chicago is creating a vehicular terrorism task force. The newly approved ban will look for ways to reduce chances of an attack similar to the deadly Halloween attack here in New York City on the west side. It includes installing more movable barriers in front of potential targets while cracking down on truck rental requirements. And the Windy City proposing a new approach to fight gun violence. The Cook County Commissioner wants the United Nations to send peacekeepers to help face what they call genocide.
We're being, again, decimated by the violence that we see here in Chicago. I mean, this is really a genocide.
There have been 644 homicides in the Windy City so far this year. All right, Pete, over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Well, the New York Times, which the president calls the failing New York Times, has a handy chart for comparing so-called falsehoods between President Trump and Obama. The Times counting more than 100 lies coming out of the Trump administration so far. As for President Obama, well, he only lied 18 times in 8 years. Yes, that's what you're looking at. So is this the media bias President Trump is always talking about? Joining us with his reaction is political editor of townhall.com, Guy Benson. Guy, thanks for being here this morning.
Good morning.
So this was in the editorial section of the opinion section of the New York Times, but for my opinion, there's not much difference between the news opinion and the opinion section anyway. What does this analysis say to you about the way they view this president?
Well, look, it does not take a lot to convince me that President Trump makes stuff up a lot. I think particularly when he's going off the cuff, he sort of grabs for any piece of information that he thinks might help his case, regardless of how true it may or may not be. So I'm open to information that tells me that Trump is unique in his disregard for the truth. But then I look at this chart from the Times, and I have to laugh out loud. The idea that President Obama lied 18 times ever in 8 years of his presidency is completely preposterous on its face. And what I look at it for comparison is one of the fact checkers called PolitiFact, and that is a well-known left-leaning organization. I mean, they are infamous of fact-checking Republicans more often. They are infamous for finding technicalities to claim that Republicans aren't telling the truth when, in fact, the core of what they said was true. Sure. PolitiFact is left-leaning for sure. They counted 98 lies from President Obama over 8 years, and that's PolitiFact. So for the New York Times to say, oh, forget 98, it's only 18, the way that they get to that number is saying, if you like your plan, you can keep it. That counts once, even though the president said it over and over again, dozens of times, lying to the American people.
How many times did he tell us we could keep our health care if we wanted to?
But also our doctors. Cost curve down, premiums down for everyone. These are additional lies about Obamacare that don't count in the chart, and it doesn't count sort of the scope of the lie either. So, I mean, this is really bogus science-looking data to try to make it seem like, oh my gosh, Trump lies an order of magnitude or several orders of magnitude more often than truth teller George Washington reborn Barack Obama, who can never tell a lie. It's